and welcome to the Habits and Home Show. I'm your host, Lisa Lazat, and I help busy moms bring order to their homes by downsizing and decluttering and ditching old habits in exchange for systems that bring peace and more enjoyment to their lives. If you're a mom trying to show the love of Jesus to your family, but the clutter in your home keeps you overwhelmed and frustrated, you have come to the right place. On this podcast, you will hear easy step-by-step tips to declutter and create systems so you can keep your home organized and finally walk in the peace God has promised you. Need some accountability? I've got you covered there too. Join the Accountability Club, a community of like-minded mamas decluttering and systemizing our homes together. Are you ready, friend? Let's get started. Hey friend, and welcome to the show. Sometimes it feels like life is just one big mess. It feels like laundry is everywhere, meals are not quite ready, or maybe they're not even planned, and our to-do list never seems to shrink. If you're juggling all of that, you know how overwhelming chaos can feel. And it's not just about the mess. Chaos has a way of seeping into how we think, how we feel, and how we treat the people we love. It drains our energy, it chips away at our patience, and it makes even small decisions feel overwhelming. But when I look at Scripture, I'm reminded of something important. Our God is not a God of chaos. From the very beginning of the Bible, in the very first story, we see Him create with order and intention and purpose. In just 7 days, He turned nothing into something. He turned emptiness into abundance, and He turned disorder into beauty. And in doing so, He molded the very principles we can use in our own lives, especially when it feels like we're drowning in the mess. So today, we're going to walk through the creation story in Genesis and see exactly how God shows us what order looks like and how we can bring that same peace into our homes. But first, let me remind you to take some action while you listen. It's always easier to get something done when you have someone encouraging you to do it. So let our time together now be that encouragement for you. Okay, here we go. First, we're going to learn that from the very beginning, God had a plan. Let's read in Genesis. Chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep." Before what we call creation, there was nothing. There was no sky, no ocean, no land, not even light, just darkness and emptiness. And yet, God wasn't flustered by the nothingness. He didn't just dive in and start throwing stars here and there and a few trees over there and tossing animals around to see where they'd land. He started with a clear plan. Now, it doesn't say in Scripture, but it's pretty obvious that He had a vision for what He was creating, and He knew exactly how He would bring it to life. And that just shows us that order starts with a vision. Before anything took shape, God already saw the whole picture. He saw how the seas would meet the shores, He saw where the mountains would rise, and how the light and dark would work in perfect rhythm. Creation wasn't random, it was intentional. That's the first lesson for us. We need to know where we're going before we start. In our homes, this is the difference between constantly reacting to the mess in front of us and intentionally shaping the environment we want. Without a vision, we're just bouncing from pile to pile, hoping something will feel better, but never really getting closer to the home we dream about. For us, that vision might start with a few simple questions like, what do I want my home to feel like when I walk in the door? How do I want each space to function for my family? What would make our daily life flow more smoothly? When you have that bigger picture in mind, every organizing decision becomes easier. Just like God's plan for creation guided each step he took, your vision for your home becomes the anchor that keeps you focused. You're building something you want to last, not constantly spinning your wheels, cleaning up the chaos in the moment. We also see that God practiced good time management. He could have created the entire universe in a single second, but he didn't. He spread his work over 6 days, with each day having a clear focus. Light and darkness on day 1, sky and water on day 2, land and plants on day 3, and so on. There's something freeing in that for us. If even God, who could have done it all instantly, chose to spread the work out, then maybe we don't have to push ourselves to do it all in one frantic burst either. The other thing we see, God didn't procrastinate. On day 1, he didn't just say, I'll get around to making light eventually. No, he completed that day's work within that day. He didn't leave it half finished to drag out into the next day. That is such a practical example for us in managing our homes. We can pace ourselves and still get things done. You don't have to declutter your entire house in one weekend. You also don't have to let a small task stretch out into weeks just because you keep putting it off. Whatever it is, when you start it that day, try to finish it that day. That means making your task small. If you decide to sort the mail, don't leave the piles sitting on the counter for later. Complete the task in the moment and then move on. God's example shows us a sweet spot. Don't rush it all at once, but also don't drag it out endlessly. You need to work steadily and finish what's in front of you and then rest just like he did. That's what I love about routines that become habits. They take the stress and decision making out of it. When something becomes a part of your rhythm, you don't have to waste energy wondering when you'll do it or debating if you even should. It just happens naturally, like brushing your teeth or making the coffee in the morning. And over time, those small, consistent actions quietly transform your whole home. His example also makes me think about how we do things inside the accountability club. We pace ourselves by focusing on one area a month to declutter and systemize, which means you're never drowning in an overwhelming to-do list. Inside the club, I offer you coaching and accountability while we go through your entire home in a year, step by step, without burnout. So you're not just cleaning for the sake of cleaning, you're building sustainable systems that actually last. And that's what we're shooting for. And what's interesting to see is that God also created systems. We see that before he made living creatures, he created the environment for them. He didn't just throw the fish in and hope for the best. He separated the waters from the land. He formed the skies above and he planted the vegetation. The fish needed the sea before they could exist in it, and the birds needed the air before they could fly. That right there, friends, is an example of a system. God put structures in place so life could flourish without chaos. Everything had its proper place and order before it began to function. In our homes, systems are the routines, storage solutions, and habits that make things run smoothly without constant scrambling. A laundry system might be as simple as everyone washes their own laundry on their own day, so you're not the only one doing laundry. A meal plan system could be as simple as making a meals master list that you can pull ideas from when you're meal planning each week. Without systems, we live in reaction mode. We're always putting out fires and always trying to catch up. With systems, we're simply maintaining. It's like topping off a cup instead of trying to refill an empty bucket. And here's the key. Systems don't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler the system, the more likely you are to stick with it. You might have an arrival station by the door for backpacks and shoes so they're not scattered throughout the house. Or you might have a quick evening routine where everyone spends 10 minutes resetting the house. Small, consistent systems create peace. Just like God created the right environment for life to thrive, we can create the right environment for our homes to run with more ease and less stress. Systems are not about perfection. They're about giving ourselves breathing room and clarity so we can focus on what matters most. Now, of course, we know God did not create without purpose. Every part of creation had a reason for being there. Light wasn't just pretty. It separated the day from night and set the rhythm for time. Plants weren't random decoration. They provided food and oxygen. Animals weren't there by accident. They brought companionship, beauty, and a balance to the world. Nothing in God's creation was just there. Everything, absolutely everything, was intentional, and everything served a purpose in the bigger picture. In our homes, purpose is what helps us let go of the extra. When something doesn't have a clear function, it usually ends up becoming clutter. It usually takes up space, adding to the visual noise, and creating work without adding value. Purpose helps us decide what stays and what goes. It's the same with our spaces. If a room, a corner, or a countertop doesn't have a specific purpose, it's far more likely to become a dumping ground. But when we give every area a clear role, it's much easier to keep order. The entryway is for welcoming people in, not storing last week's groceries. The dining table is for meals and connection, not for stacking mail or random projects. This is why God's order worked so perfectly, because everything served its intended role, and we can borrow that same principle. Before you start organizing, ask yourself, what is the purpose of this space? What do I want it to do for me? Once you know the answer, it becomes easier to create systems, to choose what belongs there, and to release the things that don't fit. When our homes are filled with items and spaces that all have a reason for being there, life feels lighter. We're not spending as much time moving things we don't need or searching for things we do. Purpose simplifies our decisions and creates a home that supports us rather than one we feel we're constantly fighting against. Another thing we see in this story is that God gave everything a spot that made sense. From the very beginning, God was intentional about where He placed things. Trees grew in the ground where their roots could dig deep and find water. Fish swam in the sea, perfectly designed for their gills and their fins. Birds flew in the air, perfectly created for the freedom of the skies. It sounds simple, but it's actually brilliant, y'all. God put things where they would thrive best. We can take that same principle into our homes. Everything needs a home that makes sense. Dishes belong in the kitchen, near the sink or the dishwasher, where we clean and use them. Coats go by the door, where we come in and out, and not halfway across the house. Kids' toys need to live in the room where they play, so cleanup happens right where the mess is made. When items are stored where they naturally get used, they're easier to put away, which makes order easier to maintain. We're removing the extra steps and the extra effort, which means we're also removing the friction, or what I like to call resistance, that makes tidying feel hard. Think about a little frustration you face daily. Do you always drop your bag on the couch because the closet is too far away? Maybe the bag needs its own hook right inside the door. Do you leave mail piled on the counter because the filing cabinet is upstairs? Maybe you need to stop filing everything and put your to-dos on a clipboard hanging in your kitchen. This is what I love about organizing with a purpose. It's not about forcing yourself to fit into a system that doesn't work. It's about making the system work for you. When things are stored in the most logical, easy-to-reach spot, your home naturally stays more organized because putting things away is simple. Just like God created environments that supported life, we can create homes that support our daily routines. And when everything has a spot that makes sense, clutter has nowhere to gather. But also keep in mind, you are not expected to do everything. Even God delegated tasks. When God placed Adam in the garden, He didn't just give him a beautiful place to live. He gave him a role to play. Naming the animals could have been a one-and-done task for God Himself, but He chose to hand it over to Adam. It was an intentional act of trust and partnership. Adam wasn't just a spectator in creation, just like your kids aren't a spectator in your home. He was a part of its care and management. In our homes, delegation works the same way. When we hand off responsibilities, we're not just lightening our load, we're giving our kids the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to take ownership. But here's the thing. So many of us moms are so used to doing everything ourselves that we forget to pass things on. We get into a routine, and before we know it, our kids have grown up and are more than capable of helping, but we're still carrying it all. Yes, we can do it all ourselves, but that's the fastest road to burnout, to bitterness, and to overwhelm. As kids get older, life gets busier. School, church, sports, social lives, they all pile on. And boy, do I know, because I'm living with almost 3 teenagers. But just because they're busy doesn't mean they can't take care of what's theirs and pitch in around the house. Sometimes we just need a little reminder or someone to point out that our kids are ready and able to handle more than we think. So I want you to think about your day. I want you to think about something that you do right now that somebody else can take over, even if it's not done exactly how you would do it. Maybe you have a 5-year-old and that 5-year-old can set the table for dinner. Maybe you have a teenager that you can start asking to take out the trash. Maybe you can ask your spouse to check the mailbox every day when he comes home from work, like my husband does. Y'all, I haven't checked the mail in years. Small shifts like these not only free you up, but they teach responsibility and teamwork to your family. And last but not the very least, God rested from His work. God rested on the 7th day, not because He was worn out or needed a break. He rested to set a rhythm and a pattern for all creation. Rest was built into the very fabric of the world He made. This is important for us to remember, especially as moms. We live in a culture that often glorifies being busy and pushing through, as if rest is a luxury or something we have to earn after everything else gets done. But God's example tells a different story. Rest is not optional, and it's not the opposite of productivity. It's an essential part of it. When we skip rest, our work loses its edge. Our patience wears thin, our focus is scattered, and our energy drains faster. Rest isn't about laziness or wasting time. It's about refilling our cup so we can keep showing up for the people who depend on us. For moms, rest can look many different ways. It might be a slow Sunday afternoon without an agenda. It might be a quiet walk outside to breathe in some fresh air. It might be reading a book as a part of your bedtime routine, or simply sitting still. Rest is permission to stop for just a moment or even longer and let yourself be cared for. It's hard for moms, especially those of us with ADHD or lots of things on our plates, to embrace rest without guilt. We might feel like there's always one more thing to do, or that taking a break means we're falling behind. But God's design shows us that rest is a part of the plan. It's not something extra, but it's something that's necessary. Letting ourselves rest is a way of trusting God's timing, and trusting His provision and His grace. When we build rest into our routines, we create space for peace and renewal. And that peace flows into our homes. It flows into our relationships and also into our hearts. So if you're holding on to the idea that rest is a luxury or a weakness, I want you to remember, even our Creator paused on the seventh day. His rest invites us to slow down, to care for ourselves, and to recognize that our worth is not measured by what we do, but by who we are. When we step back and look at the creation story, we can see a blueprint for living an intentional, ordered life. Number 1, have a plan. 2, manage your time. 3, build systems. 4, create with a purpose. 5, give everything a spot. 6, delegate task. And 7, rest. If God, the creator of the universe, values order, structure, and rhythm, we can trust that building those things into our lives is not only possible, but it's good. And if you need help putting this into practice, that's exactly what I do inside the Accountability Club. It's where I walk alongside of you with step-by-step support to create systems, to find your rhythms, and to bring peace into your home. Or if you're not a group person and you prefer a more tailored approach, you can coach with me one-on-one. And you can find both of those links in the notes below. All right, friends, I'm going to leave you with this verse to meditate on this week. It comes out of 1 Corinthians 14:33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. All right, I pray that you find peace this week in your home, and I will see you right here next time on the Habits and Home Show. Hey friend, before you go, I wanted to tell you more about the Accountability Club. Each month, we'll tackle a new space in our homes and work together to declutter and set up systems so we can easily maintain order without getting overwhelmed. You'll get a new decluttering tutorial each month, the coaching and accountability you need to actually follow through, and encouragement without judgment from other Christian moms in a safe environment. And guess what? The entire club is off of social media, so you don't have to worry about distractions the world may throw at you. Sweet friend, if you're feeling stuck in your decluttering journey, this is the place for you. Click the link below to try out the Accountability Club and start decluttering today.